a new story from the unit Braving the Hazard. So, the Serang of Ranaganji by Dr. A.J. Cronin. A.J. Cronin's very good story, interesting. So that is about how to face a disaster, especially an epidemic. And before starting the story, so now the whole world is undergoing, the second wave of COVID-19 in its super spike. And we are afraid how the humanity is going to brave such a hazard. Like that, here we are going to familiarize and learn the concepts and how the people made themselves very great or braved the challenges of a malaise, a disease. That is the Serang of Ranaganji. So I am going to read about the author, A.J. Cronin. So better all the learners, please try to have this class with the textbook, then it will be 100% useful for you. A.J. Cronin, he was born in 1896. 1981 died, was a Scottish novelist and a physician. Physician means a doctor by profession, a surgery doctor. His major novels, let us see, that is Hatter's Castle, is a very famous novel written in 1931. The Stars Look Down, at another novel published in 1935. The Citadel is at another very famous book or novel written in 1937. The Keys of the Kingdom, that was published in 1942. The Green Years, 1944. Shannon's Way in 1948. The Thing of Beauty, 1956. A Thing of Beauty is joy forever, is the quotation of John Keats. Then the Judas Theatre, that was published in 1961, and A Song of Sixpence, that was published in 1964. These are the important works written by Dr. A.J. Cronin. Now let us see his peculiarities and features. His strength as a novelist are his keen observation, graphic description, and his narrative skill. So these are the important features or characteristics of the novelist. The excerpt means this Serang of the Ranaganji is taken from Adventures in Two Words. Actually, it is taken from Adventures in Two Words. That is his autobiographical novel. That means his own self-experience. Adventures in Two Words. So that is why it is called autobiographical novel. That is why his experience as a doctor in the ship is described or given as an excerpt or a story. So it is an anecdote, an event that happened from his experience, from A.J. Cronin's experience as a surgeon doing operation in the Royal Navy. So that was his experience in the Royal Navy. So this is very important about the author. So when you know something about the author, you will understand Actually, this is autobiographical elements and also an anecdote that an event happened in his own experience, in his own life. That is what it is here. So we will come back to the story. Here is a story about a voyage. Voyage means, please try to understand, this is a travel on waters or on the sea. Voyage. Voyage is actually a travel on waters from Liverpool to Calcutta during the British rule in India. Actually, India did not get independence, that is all. So this is an experience, and it tells how the author and the hero of the story, you see, A.J. Cronin, and the hero of the story, that is Serang, a cast, the Serang, and his name is Hassan, that is the hero of the story, manage a potential calamity. Calamity means a spreading of a disease in the ship. Just like COVID-19, which is second wave of COVID-19 is capturing the whole world. And they were managing the catastrophe very silently, without any kind of propaganda, and bravely, very courageously, they were braving the situation, and they were facing these things. And of course, they managed. Like that, you see, we all the human beings around the world, especially the people who are living in Kerala, especially in the capital of Kerala, Trivandrum, we are also undergoing the surge of COVID-19 second wave, which is more dreadful than the first wave that last year, 2020. So we should also try to brave this disease with courage and silently by obeying social distancing, wearing double mask, washing the hands with soaps, and using hand sanitizers, and social distancing. Better stay home and stay safe. Like that, a very important calamity, potential calamity that happened. Let us see how it happens. So I'm reading the first paragraph of the story. Look, my dear, did you ever in your life see such an absurdly comic creature? A smartly dressed woman, first class passenger on the Ranaganji, about to sail from Liverpool on the long voyage to Calcutta, made this remark in a high, well-bred voice to her companion. And they stood before me on the liner's upper deck. Ships, liners means the ship which is used for voyaging from Liverpool to Calcutta. You see, there is a wonderful remark, and it is an absurd remark about the hero of the story. And the lady is telling, that woman is telling, look, my dear, she's speaking to her friend, companion. Companion means boon, best friend. Look, my dear, did you ever see in your life such an absurdly comic creature, very ugly animal-like figure? So this is the remark. Who told it? A smartly dressed woman. She is a first-class passenger on the name of the ship Ranaganji. Ranaganji is the name of the ship, which is going to start its journey from Liverpool on the voyage in the sea to Calcutta. Maybe that was the remark, first sentence. How was her voice? She is a well-bred. She is a first-class passenger. So, from a very good family, high, well-bred voice, educated, to her companion, to her friend, she was telling. Where they were standing, they stood before me. Before me. Who is me? means A.J. Cronin, the writer, the surgeon of the ship, the doctor of the ship. Before me means actually who is telling the story? The writer A.J. Cronin is telling us the story. So before me, before A.J. Cronin, on the liners means the ship they used for traveling from Liverpool to Calcutta, liners upper deck. So we will go to the second paragraph. Following their amused gaze. So, my eyes, A.J. Cronin was looking them very surprisingly, both what that lady and her companion. My eyes came to rest upon a squat. So A.J. Cronin looked at that boy, that man, Hassan. He's the character, he's the hero. A.J. Cronin looked at that man. He is an ugly native seaman with the short legs, not long legs, short legs, and a large disproportionate, no clear size of the head. I recognized him as the Indian Serang. Serang means a petty officer or a quartermaster who is taking control of almost all the activities in the ship. Quartermaster of the ship. Quartermaster means the supply of things and about the operation of the ship and about the well-being of the passengers. He was quietly superintending. Actually, that man was quietly means silently managing or controlling the crew of Lascars, means the workmen of the ship. They are petty officers in the ship, Lascars, now completing the loading of baggage. You see around 1,500 passengers. They are tourists and pleasure seekers who wanted to enjoy the journey. And actually these Lascars, petty officers in the ship, or the crew, the workers of the ship, now completing the loading. They are just arranging the luggage or baggage of the passengers. Looks hardly human. Actually that man looking very hardly human. Agreed the man with a superior smile. Inclines a chap to believe, making a man to believe that dear old Darwin is actually evolution of life or origin of human beings on the earth, was not altogether wrong. Yeah, actually his theories and predictions were not altogether wrong. Yeah, actually about the evolution of human beings on earth or life on earth and shape of the human beings. Actually it is related to the theory of origin of life on earth and human shape and figure on earth. Now we'll pass on to the next paragraph. The voyage. Voyage, please don't use as a train journey or a road journey, a rail journey. It is a water journey. Okay, that is all. The voyage began favorably in calm. Look at the atmosphere or the weather condition where they started their journey. Voyage began favorably, calm and clear weather, very, very good climate. We crossed the Bay of Biscay without suffering unduly from the turbulent waters and soon were through the Strait of Gibraltar, places that were going, and the accommodating weather or atmosphere, traversing the tranquil Mediterranean and azure skies, very light blue, clear skies, tranquil, very calm and quiet Mediterranean Sea. The Ranaganji was a stout-old duck. After describing the hero of this voyage and the atmosphere and the location, the places, now the writer, that means the narrator of the story, is giving a little description about the ship. Ranaganji. That was the name of the ship. It was a stout-old tub, a vessel, a ship, controlled by white officers with an entirely, complete native Indian crew. Actually, the ship or the old tug, the vessel was manned or controlled by white officers with an entirely native Indian crew. The workmen, the workforce in the ship was an Indian crew. I was the physician of the ship. I was the doctor of the ship. A.J. Cronin was the doctor of the ship and was delighted, very much happy by the balmy breeze. You see, while they were traveling in the ship, they will get the wind soothing. It is a balmy means curing, just like a medicinal cure. Wow, very blessing and brilliant sunshine also they were getting, which was very healthy for the passengers. Now we'll pass on to the next paragraph. The ship was crowded. So many, I told you, around 1,500 tourists and pleasure seekers were there. So ship was crowded. So many passengers were packed with the passengers from stern to stern, from one part of the ship to the other end of the ship. All passengers were crowded. The usual tourist, actually the passengers were of having the category of tourists and pleasure seekers, those who wanted to derive much happiness and satisfaction by seeing the scenery, world beauty and the balmy breeze and brilliant sunshine. Together with a large number of Anglo-Indian army officers were also in the ship. A large number of Anglo-Indian army officers, many of whom were accompanied, assisted by their, you see, all these army men were accompanied not alone, but by their wives and families. From the first night out, there was a tremendous gaiety. That means the state of being cheerful. From the first night out, there was a tremendous gaiety, the state of being cheerful on. So we will go to the next page. Board. There was a complete happiness in the ship. The chief among the social promoters. Let us see, there were so many. But social promoters chief was Miss Jobsmith, the woman whom I had overheard on the board deck the morning of our departure. Actually, A.J. Cronin overheard about this woman in the ship itself the morning of our departure. Actually, they started their journey in the morning. Now, Van Jobsmith was a thrusting person, always an imposing personality, obviously means clearly over 30, more than 30 years old, got up in a dashing style to look younger. So she was doing a lot of makeup to make herself, even if she is past 30 years old, she was trying to make her appearance look very younger. She was not only a snob about the character of Jobsmith, actually the social promoter's chief. She was not only a snob. Snob means telling bombast about, oh, I have a big house, I have a wonderful car, I have a bungalow, I have this job, this much salary. That is a snob. But when the people hear about Miss Smith, actually she is a boring person. But assertive bore, that means exactly a boring personality. We reached Port Said. So actually the ship, their vessel, reached Port Said. Everyone went ashore excitedly. Actually, they went to the shore very excitedly with enthusiasm and great interest. Came back with the silks, shawls, cigarettes, scent and jewelry. Actually, it was a port. They went out and came, bought some things. What are the things they had shopped? Actually, silks, shawls, cigarettes, scent and jewelry. Then we were through the Red Sea. After that, they started their journey through the Red Sea, past the barren rocks of Aden and out upon the wide Arabian Sea, the places they touched or the journey traveled through. We will pass on to the next paragraph. On the following morning, So started, one day finished. The following morning, as I held my consultations, you see, he's a doctor. He wanted to consult the passengers whether they feel any fever or any kind of headache or some unhealthy situation with their body. Consultations in surgery. There is a small hospital adjoining his cabin, the doctor's cabin, A.J. Cronin's cabin. The Serang. Hazard, I told you, hero of the story, Serang, the lascar, the worker, or the crew, one of the crew members. Hassan appeared. Hassan just came in, bringing with him two of his lascar deck hands, his co-workers, colleagues, with the two of them appeared in front of A.J. Cronin. He inclined his head in a respectful salam. Sir, salam. Yes, very good, wish. And address me. His voice was hoarse. Sir, good morning, sir. Hoarse, very strange. It had a steady undertone. Dr. Sahib. He's calling with a kind of a strange Dr. Sahib. He's addressing, he's calling the attention of Dr. A.J. Cronin. I fear these men are sick. He brought the two lascars, two colleagues, telling these men are sick. They are not well. Let us see, there is the starting of a pandemic. The seamen certainly did not look well. These two lascars were not feeling very well. They complained of general malaise, some unhealthy situation of intense headache, just a migraine, severe 100% pain headache, and racking bone pains. See, they have a very severe bone pains also. They looked very much frightened. As I asked them to strip and began, I said, please remove your dress, and Dr. A.J. Cronin started doing examination. Both were fevered. There is a fever. Body temperature has gone up. With the thick furred tongues were swollen, and no taste can be felt, and dry skin, which is nature's gravest warning. And then to my horror, doctor was afraid my palpitating, heart-beating fingers or shivering fingers became aware of a scattering of hard little nodules, some rashes in the body, or skin infection under the wrist skin of each man, wrist skin of it. Was unmistakably symptom of smallpox disease. You see, when the story was written at that time, smallpox was a deadly disease. If any man or any human being is contracted with such a smallpox, actually the death is sure, because science was, especially medical science, was not much developed at that time. So medicine was not found out for the immediate cure of the deadly disease called smallpox. Actually, by examining these two lascars or deckhands who were brought to my Hassan, the hero of the story, in front of A.J. Cronin. Actually, he did an examination, diagnosis of they had a severe headache like migraine, joint pains, and actually the tongue was swollen and could not feel any kind of taste, gustatory feelings. Everything was, it was unmistakably the symptoms of smallpox. Actually, this was a deadly disease like a smallpox. So now we'll pass on to the next paragraph. Young and inexperienced in my profession. Now, Dr. A.J. Cronin is talking about himself. He's exposing his own inability and the measurement of his own professionalism. He was young and no more experienced, inexperienced, no more experienced in his doctor profession, medical profession. I had not learned to control my feelings. Actually, he was totally afraid and he did not control his feelings. My expression must have already altered visible. His expression was completely visible, altered, changed. Others can understand the inability of the doctor. For although The Serang said nothing. Serang was very calm and quiet. His lined and battered face assumed a look of deeper gravity. You see, lined face, actually there were folds in the skin, and a battered, completely exhausted and damaged face, look of deeper, he was looking very serious. Hurriedly means very fastly, with a beating heart. Actually, everyone could bear the heartbeat. I made my way to the bridge, another portion of the ship. Captain Hampel was not there. When he went to that port in order to inquire or to search Captain Hampel, Captain was not there. But the captain was in the chart room below, down. He looked up sharply as as the doctor burst into that chart room. He looked up sharply. Sir, AJ Cronin is telling, my voice broke. I have to report the smallpox on board. There is a infectious and deadly disease reported, just like COVID-19 on board. Two of the deckhands, the two crew members, I saw his lips draw tightly to her. When he told this, the Captain Hampel's lips draw tightly together. Now we'll pass on to the next page, please. He was a thickest man of 55, known as a strict discipline. You see, 55-year-old Captain Hampel, known as a strict disciplinarian, wonderful, just like a military discipline, but also a just, very 100% holding or exposing truth and fair-minded officer, a wonderful and fair-minded and just officer. And let us see what is AJ Cronin is telling. No, he said, the captain is telling, Doctor, he said, drawing up last and coming close to me, going very near to doctor. His words unmistakably grim. His words were unmistakably grim, very serious and very loud. Listen, you are in a charge of the health of the ship. Of course, Dr. A.J. Cronin, you are the charge of the health of the ship. It is entirely, completely for you to decide. I can't give you any of my officers because there are no many officers in the ship. I cannot give you any of my officers. I am overloaded. I have more, overloaded means I have more responsibilities to do in the ship as a captain of the ship. And I am understaffed. There are no more staff there, understaffed. I need 150 staff, but I have only 100 staff. Again 50. So understaffed, no more workers with me. But I am going to give you a Serang. I am a petty officer, a Lancaster. Believe me, he is the finest man I have. He is the finest man I have. You have got to keep these things from spreading, but try to keep silent about this disease, smallpox. And what is more, don't let a whisper of it. Don't tell anything about to anybody else. No passenger should know about this disease, or we will have a bloody panic. Almost all the passengers, tourists and pleasure seekers will be in a panic condition, bloody panic. I left the chart room after hearing this. Actually, he has got one assistant, that is Hassan. I left, means AJ Cronin went out of the chart room, realizing, understanding, with the weakness in my stomach, he felt almost weak. The desperate responsibility, because the doctor has the responsibility of the health condition of the ship, of my position as a doctor. Here we were in the middle of the Arabian Sea. Now the ship is traveling in the middle of the Arabian Sea. 1500 means 1,500 passengers abroad. No means of whatever of vaccinating. How to vaccinate these 1,500, 1,500 passengers? The smallpox, contagious, deadly disease, the most deadly contagious in the whole dictionary of disease, just like our COVID-19. So let us go to the next paragraph. Back in the surgery. Back in the surgery means the concentration room of the doctor, a small hospital in the ship. One of the Lascases was in the grip of a violent rigor. Of those two infected Lascas, one was in a violent rigor. He was showing very kind of a fist nature. I turned from the shivering man to the Serang. Shivering man to the Serang, whose incalculable eyes, which cannot be calculated, incalculable eyes, remained fixed upon me. That Serang is our Hassan, the hero of the story. We have got to isolate these men, check on the contacts. There was no sick bay on board. Sick room is there in the ship. Not an inch of available cabin space, no sufficient space to accommodate these patients. Baffled, surprised, I looked at the Serang. The doctor A.J. Cronin looked at the Serang, who undismayed, who was not at all disappointed, again turned upon me, turned to A.J. Cronin, the full force of it. He looked very seriously at Dr. A.J. Cronin. We will make a shelter on the after deck, under the deck, that means very bottom of the ship. Dr. Sahib, very cool there. That place is very cool with the plenty of fresh air. That is the place. Nobody will see it. We will make a shelter over there. That is all. Okay. So, shelter over there. In the stern of the ship, one part of the ship, protected from view by a battery of derricks and donkey engines, he set to work. This is the proper place where actually derricks and donkey engines, a battery of derricks, these are the technical equipments of the ship where they found a sleeping place. He set to work. Hassan started working a shelter within an hour, within 1 hour. He had erected, constructed with the silent efficiency. He was not making much noise or any kind of a mess there. He made an efficient, with his silent efficiency, a large canvas shelter. Mattresses and sheets were then brought. You see, mattresses, sheets for the patients to rest and lie. And the two patients were comfortably placed, installed in that shelter cabin. Our next step was to muster the crew, make the workers in the ship for a thorough medical inspection. Actually, we must have a wonderful inspection, or we are testing the passengers. One of the stockers means the people who are just making all the arrangements, that means keeping the baggage or luggage of the passengers and pleasure seekers on caboose. And so one of the stockers who complained of fever and headache. Actually, that stalker was also felt or experienced fever and headache, showed the prodromal nodules with the beginnings of the typical rash. He got some skin infection, rashes on the body, and he was also separated, isolated. Isolated means separated with the other cases. Other two hands were there also. Okay. So now we will pass on to the next paragraph. And now, who is going to help me attend to these men? Hassan glanced at me in surprise, looked at the doctor. Why? Naturally, it is I. Hassan told, I am going to assist you. The doctor warned him, you must be careful. This disease is most contagious, I told you, like COVID-19. This smallpox is also very contagious, infectious, very fast it will spread. I'm not afraid, Dr. Sahib. Actually, now try to do character sketch of A.J. Cronin, character sketch of the hero of the story, Hassan. So Hassan is telling, I'm not afraid, doctor. Even if the smallpox is very deadly and contagious, I'm not afraid. Together, Hassan and Hassan and A.J. Cronin sponged the patients. Actually, they washed the body of the patients with the permanganate solution. The science student can understand what this solution administered to each man a strong antipyretic. Antipyretic is a medicine that reduces fever. Antipyretic. This is actually the glossary vocabulary, difficult words meanings given at the end of this story. You can just refer after this class. Antipyretic is actually a medicine that reduces fever. So, permanganate solution administered to each man, a strong antipyretic, huge sheets soaked in disinfectant around the shelter, and actually they were just doing a kind of a spraying of medicine to avoid this actually disease causing germs and virus, and set up within this little secret area a cooking stove they arranged there where liquids would be heated, water could be heated, and simple meals could be prepared for the patients to have. Next morning, however, brought a fresh cause of two concerns. Again, two patients were there. I found three new cases among the deck hands. Two already there, three already there, again two more. The men already segregated. The men already segregated, where much was their condition was more bad. That is worse. Bad, worse, worst. So worse, and that same afternoon, four more of the crew sickened. Again, four persons were also infected with this. We now had 10 cases in our makeshift lacerato. You see, makeshift lacerato. Lacerato means that means isolated shelter. Isolated shelter created, made for treating the affected patients, that is laceral. Next morning, however, brought a fresh cause of concern. I found three new cases among the deck hands. The men already segregated, separated were much. Their condition was very bad. And that same afternoon, again, four more crew were infected. Crew was infected. We now had 10 cases in our makeshift. That means the shelter created for the patients. It was a situation. Actually, this was the situation to test the strongest in a very tough condition. But the Serang, the hero of the story, Hassan, calm. He was not very much violent and irritated, very calm and quiet, unperturbed, not disturbed, gave me a fresh heart. He wholeheartedly gave me his assistance and assured his presence and service in tending the patients, in nursing. Tending means taking care of the patients. He was indefatigable, undefeatable, indefatigable, without failing the spirits. Be careful of yourself. Be careful of yourself. I had to beg him, the doctor said, please, Hassan, be careful. It is contagious. Do not go very near to the patient. Please try to avoid social distancing. Now he showed his strong teeth in a sudden fleeting smile. Are you careful of yourself, Dr. Sahib? Hassan then asked, sir, doctor, you asked me to be careful of myself. But Hassan is asking, doctor, are you careful of yourself? Doctor is telling, indeed, I am. Sure, I am careful. Besides, moreover, this is my work, of course. Actually, I am the person responsible of caring the health of the passengers in the ship. This is my work, Dr. A.J. Cronin is telling. Don't worry, Dr. Shakib. Hassan is telling, doctor, don't worry, I am strong. And it is my work also. Like Dr. Hassan is also telling, tendering the patient is also my work. I was so weighed down by responsibility. Doctor is telling his pathetic condition. So I was completely exhausted with his responsibility that I had a slight concern for myself. I had a slight concern. I have no much concern for myself. Although we were moving full stream ahead, full steam ahead, a hot pressure, Colombo, the nearest port of car. That was the nearest port they can reach. Was still 8 days. Again, 8 days they have to reach that port. In the course of the next 48 hours, four more stokers went to join the others on there. You see, four more stokers also went for joining after that. They also were infected with the disease. A total of 40 now, 10, again 14 patients, and one of the earlier victims had lapsed into. You see, one of the patients became very paralyzed, no remembrance, no conscience, in a coma state, seemed likely to die at any hour. Actually, which shows us that patient may die at any time under this added load. So this is an additional botheration. AJ Cronin could not sleep thinking about the 14 patients. And there, where I knew I should find him. So Hassan, he could, watchful and mute under the star, always keen on his duty, watching the patients under the stars, was the Serang, who is very much careful. How shall I describe the solace which flowed towards me from him? So the doctor is very much grateful to the assistance given by Hassan to him. He was telling he cannot be very grateful to that much assistance Hassan gave it to, as he stood there in the mediation with his long arms folded on his bare chest, motionless a statue. Hassan was standing. When a sick man groaned faintly, when a patient is making groaning, fainting sound, he would jump into them and will ask, with no sound, without a sound, to succor him, to adjust him, and then returning, he would fold his arms with the ship surgeon slowly forward. That was the manner of the Hassan, or the hero of the story. Actually, about the character of Hassan. Hassan had no fondness for speech. He does not like to speak. Just like a chatterbox. Only for necessary he will open his mouth and speak. But despite the silence of our long night vigils, actually long night, both Hassan and AJ Cronin were watching very carefully, vigils. I gathered some fragments of his history. Actually, by the time AJ Cronin collected some information about Hassan. Actually, Hassan, he was from the Punjab, where his parents had wandered to southern India. From Punjab, they went to southern India. There, like so many in the coastal areas by the shore of the sea, he had taken to seafaring life. Finally, he turned when his parents went to southern India. Hassan took to seafaring. He decided to become a seafarer. For nearly 40 years, 40 years, he had given himself to the oceans of the world, different oceans. And 15 of these years, out of 40, 15 years, he had been spent in the Ranaganji ship. Indeed, surely, truly, indeed means truly, he had no place on shores. He does not have any kind of property on the land. Neither family, he did not marry, he did not have a family, no his parents. He had no friends in the great land mass of India. He had never married. So let us see about his religion, about his family background. Now we will see that about his religion. By religion, he was a Muslim. All his life he had acquired nothing. He did not earn anything. Neither property, no land, nor money. His few possessions, then what did he have? In his ship chest he had his treasure. Might be worth a few rupees. Only he has a few rupees with him. The thought hurt me. So this kind of condition of Hassan made A.J. Cronin very disappointed. And in an access of mistaken sympathy, I exclaimed, Hassan, you are doing so much in this emergency. This is an emergency situation. That is why we are also facing triple lockdown, emergency situation to tackle the surge of spread of the disease. The company must give you extra pay. The company, Serang ship, this Ranaganji ship's company should give you extra payment. His forehead decreased. Actually, Hassan's forehead decreased. He does not like this comment. He was silent for a long moment. Then he answered, what use is money, Dr. Sahib? What is the use of money? Money is of no use for me. To one who has all his needs. Actually, I am the person, or the Hassan is the person who has all he needed. He has no much dreams and desires. I am well enough the way I am. So I am very happy with the way I am leading at the present time. So this is the character of Hassan. He does not give much importance to money or material prosperity, land, house, cars, comfortable, nothing he doesn't like. He was unmistakably sincere. You see, another aspect, Hassan was a sincere, completely detached from the unusual hope of reward. He does not want material prosperity, no money prosperity. Money had no interest for him, of course. He does not like money. He had always despised, he shunned it, he rejected the prospect of money. Instead, then what are the other qualities rather than money? He does not like money. He had a courage. One important thing to brave the hazards. We should be courageous. We should not dispirit ourselves. Self-control and faith, belief. The men he worked among lived poor and died poor. You see, the condition where Hassan lived among the people, such people were poor people and they died poor. It had become the habit of his mind to disregard tomorrow. He is not thinking about tomorrow, but he is thinking about today. That is. So that is about the marvelous. Nobody, we cannot find such a personality in this modern world. Standing with him, you see, that is a very important, in the liquid moonlight. So standing with the Hassan in the liquid, very soothing moonlight, I was stung. So I had some prick of conscience. I was stung by a strange pang, a pain which went inside it. Beside his clear simplicity, he was having a clear simplicity. The world's values suddenly seemed to dross. You see, by looking at the personality of the hero of the story, Hassan, the writer became very much ashamed. Actually, writer was, A.J. Cronin was entirely different from Hassan. Actually, A.J. Cronin wanted to be rich. He wanted to gain much material prosperity. He wanted to have a land. He wanted to have family. He wanted to have more money. But by comparing to the nature of Hassan, A.J. Cronin felt very much ashamed. How great Hassan is when compared to the writer or the author A.J. Cronin. The world's value suddenly seemed to draw nothing, invaluable to me. A great party had started in the saloon. So there was a great party that started in the saloon in June. I viewed my own outlook towards the future, my passionate desire for success and wealth. I was conscious of a secret shame. So he felt very much ashamed. On the following day, we lost two of our patients. So actually 2 patients died. It was Hassan himself. You see, when the 2 patients died, it was their duty to dispose the dead bodies. So what did Hassan do? It was Hassan himself who sewed the shrouds. That means a dead body covering dress. that was stitched by, sewed by Hassan, who in his hoarse and hollow voice, you see, he had a very strange and hollow voice, read aloud a short passage, a small lines from the Ramayana, the holy book of Hindus. So from this we can understand the two patients who died of smallpox in the ship are Hindus. So when they were going to dispose the body of two Hindu patients, actually Hassan with his quiet, hollow voice and hoarse voice read out a small lines or passage from the holy book of Ramayana before their bodies wrapped in sailcloth, that means ship cloth, they were covered with the weight at the feet, so kept to some weight, then only body will go under the water, were cast over by midnight. By midnight they threw the dead bodies into the sea waters. The next paragraph shows no fresh cases developed. No new cases was developed. By that time they tried to control the spread of the disease. And a week later we anchored off Colombo. Colombo, they anchored their ship. Soon the sick men had been taken off to hospital. Sick patients were taken to the hospital in Colombo. Several of the patients showed signs of having passed the crisis, so they have overcame the crisis, the spread of smallpox. But three, helpless and delirious, unsupported, a mass of running souls, some inflections were, they were carried in the arms of Hassan. Actually, those patients were carried in the arms of the Hassan. As we stood together, while we were standing together, I saw that the Serang's dark cheeks were wet too. You see, dark color of the cheeks of Serang was dark, and they were wet with tears. Our passage, you see, our passage, our journey through the Bay of Bengal, was very brief, very short, and uneventful. Nothing very serious happened. Uneventful, very usual, common journey. I had barely time to recover myself. Actually, doctor did not have much time to come into the present state because he was overburdened with the responsibility of taking care of the health of the ship. That means the health of the 1,500 passengers, 1,500 passengers. Most of them were tourists and pleasure seekers. Or to realize that the epidemic had been confined. Yes, epidemic had been confined, controlled before we were anchored alongside the quay at Calcutta. Quay means port. Quay at Calcutta means the port at Calcutta. From Liverpool to Calcutta journey, starting from Liverpool to Calcutta. Coming to that, social promoters chief, Miss Job Smith, and their comment. Suddenly, at my elbow, I heard the familiar shrilling of Miss Job Smith. This is the lady. First made a remark about the Hassan, the hero of the story. Look at this ugly creature, animal-like creature. Suddenly, so by the end of the story, when they anchored at the quay at Calcutta, the port at Calcutta, suddenly the writer felt to the presence of the familiar swilling Miss Job Smith. Actually, Ronnie is her friend. She was making first about the appearance of Hassan to her friend Ronnie. Now Miss Job Smith, she is also making last. Actually, the story begins with the comment of Miss Job Smith, and the story is going to end with the comment of the same Miss Job Smith. Very important. This is the way of making or creating or writing a story. So Agent Cronin, even if since he is a physician or a doctor, how deftly, neatly, technically accurate way of writing a story. The with the comment of Miss John Smith, and the story ends with the comment of the same John Smith, but two aspects or views are entirely different. Miss John Smith does not change her view of Mr. Hassan, the hero of the story. She is also having about that same negative attitude about Hassan. But the answer of that is a witty answer of A.J. Cronin given to the comment of Miss Job Smith is that is a philosophical, universally accepted truth. Let us see. Suddenly, at my elbow, I heard the familiar swilling sound talking of Job Smith. Oh, look, Ronnie. Miss Job Smith is telling her companion, her friend Ronnie, look, Ronnie. There is that absurd creature again. Absurd creature, just like a dirty, ugly, like animal. That is what the expression of Miss Job Smith about Hassan. There is that absurd creature again. Once more. I followed their united gaze, looking together. Followed, he continued. And there again, down in the afterhold, knocking out the hatch battens to unload the baggage. Actually, passengers will have to get back their luggage. So the stockers will have to unload, make it and give it back to was the object of their mirth, Hassan. So they were very busy with having their luggage. The huntress from Cheltenham is a town in England. The hunter is a person who is hunting the animals and killing with their guns or some other equipment. But the huntress is the female animal, Miss Job Smith from Cheltenham, a town in England, swung around, moving around, bent her wit. Actually, she exposed and spoke out her wit, her fascinations upon me. And she asked a question. Hello, Mr. Dr. A.J. Cronin. Where did you keep him? Him means Hassan. That is what she expressed, the absurd creature, animal. Where did you keep him during the entire voyage traveled by sea? Doctor dear, she asked. In a special cage? Then she asked her, did you keep that animal in a special cage? Cage is for animals, creatures to be kept. Silence. You see, that is a very important. Silence is there after this question. Actually, that was a very derogative question. Silence, a vision of the Serang's nobility. A vision, sight of the Serang's nobility rising before. When she asked such a derogative and dehumanizing question from Miss Job Smith, actually she understood the nobility of A.J. Cronin, felt the nobility, the greatness of Serang. Hassan was visible before the doctor. Then his reply is very important to the question of Miss Job. Yes, in a way, by some way, it was a cage. I kept, actually, where did I keep Hassan? It was a cage. I kept him. Isn't it clear? Don't you feel that it is strange, Miss Job Smith? Even if I kept him in a kind of a cage, but animals were all outside. The animals were all outside. That means Hassan is telling that even if you thought Hassan was a creature, absurd creature or animal, and you asked me whether I kept him in a cage, so A.J. Cronin told I kept him in somewhat a cage. somewhat in a cage. Okay, doesn't matter, somewhat in a cage. But he's giving. Even if I kept this real human, noble human being, the cage was meant for animals. But animals were all outside. Here, cage is empty. Wonderful, sarcastic reply she has given. So think about how actually animals are outside. Dirty creatures are outside. Almost all these passengers are, especially the most absurd animal or creature is Miss Job Smith. That is the meaning of that one. Job Smith is actually the animal. She is out of the cage. She should be kept in the cage. And this noble man, Hassan, should be let out and he should be given, or his service should be given for the betterment or well-being of the, especially for the infectious diseased patients. That is the very good answer. So with that we came to the end of, and now the Serang of Ranaganji by Dr. A.J. Cron, the glossary, the difficult words meanings, I am just going. When you, after this live session, you may be going and reading the story 3 or 4 times. So that is very important. By the time you will get better understanding and imbibe the whole spirit described by A.J. Cron in this one. You see, antipyretic. Antipyretic is a medicine that reduces fever. That I have described while I was teaching. Impromptu. Impromptu means without a proper preparation. Impromptu. Without a proper preparation is impromptu. Leitmotiv. It's a very important one, my dear students. Leitmotiv is actually, which is the word you will go to learn about this word, leitmotiv, in details while you go for your advanced studies, getting admission in colleges after your +2 degrees. Leitmotiv is actually repeated theme. Leitmotiv is actually the repeated theme. Popular. No, it is not popular. Popular. Popular, popular, P-A-P-U-L-A-R, not popular, P-O-P-U, is P-A-P-U, popular, related to small sore, usually inflammatory elevation of the skin that does not contain a pus. You see something like pimples on them which does not have pus inside. That body rashes or body irritation, and this is what is called popular. Okay, medical terms and words. Then prodromal. Prodromal is another word. Try to understand what is prodromal. It is in your textbook in the glossary section. Symptomatic of the onset of an. It is asymptomatic. Asymptomatic. Not symptomatic. It is asymptomatic of the onset of an attack or a disease. Asymptomatic. So, okay, it is not that one. We can use it symptomatic. Symptoms are visible on the starting of a disease or attack. That is prodromal, symptomatic. With the symptoms, it is showing some attack or disease is going to happen to you. Then, purulent. Purulent is containing pus. Okay, purulent. Then Serang. Serang we have it. Hassan is a Serang. A petty officer in a merchant ship. A petty officer in a merchant ship. A boatswain, a crew in a ship or boat. A lascar. A lascar is also mentioned here. That also, when you read the story, you will understand about these things. Then lazaret, which I described while I was teaching the story, the isolated shelter made for treating the infected patients. That is, so these are the all difficult words. That explanations will be very important for you to understand the story, understand the story, and by the time, please, when you are reading the story, at least you must after this class, go and read the story only 3 to 5 times by looking, and such words and ideas will be registered in your mind. That is very important. It should be registered in your mind, and by the time, please try to do first one while reading the story, the dialogue between the doctor, that means A.J. Cronin and Hassan. And the dialogue between A.J. Cronin and Miss Job Smith, this you must try to make good. Then the characteristic features or the characteristic sketch of Dr. A.J. Cronin. Even Dr. A.J. Cronin became very inferior when compared to Hassan, the hero of the story. Then the personal character sketch of Hassan. Everything very. What do you have to do? It write down the points. Write down the points with the systematic table, tabular wise arrangements of points. You will get better notes and points, which will make you. And my dear students, please try to understand. Learning English language, not for the examination point of view. For the examination's sake, if you study English, there is no use for that one. So English is a universal language, is a foreign language. You are learning English to practice English in your day-to-day life. For example, when you go to a bank, you wanted to start or open an account, SBI account or a passbook in your bank. At least you must have the knowledge of filling in the application form of opening an account in a bank. Or to write a biodata. So for practical use, day-to-day life, we use English language, which makes you cultured and will give you more opportunities to get better positions in life, and your life will be very comfortable and successful. That is what I am telling. Please consider English as your part of life, as a habit of your life, not for the examination's sake, something by heart and vomiting on the answer sheet, getting mark. No, there is no utility, no practice of English language itself. Please try to make English language as the habit of your life. And you should be able to read English dailies, newspapers, to watch and understand international English news channels, and to open up the wide horizons in the life and be very successful in life. That is what you see. Even uneducated, uncultured seafarer Serang became more and more popular than A.J. Cronin, the writer. You see, he became, because he was very much dedicated and sincere and committed, Serang or Lascar. So I want you to be, as a student, please try to make yourself very successful in life with the English language, which will promote all your learnings of other subjects like botany, zoology, chemistry, physics. All these will be very easy with your English knowledge. Sometimes you may feel core subjects like, since I am a biology science student, so botany, zoology, physics, chemistry, mathematics, just like mountain, Herculean, I cannot. Your standard of English is very low. This I be learned only by English language. If you have better foundation of English language, better rudimentary or fundamentals of English language, all these core subjects like zoology, botany, chemistry, physics, mathematics will be very easy. So consider English is very important part of a branch of your studies. Okay, so my dear students, this is the time to wind up. And today I think you may have a text, actually first two chapters, Google Meet test I will be conducting time from 3 to 4. And my dear students, do one thing. Google Meet test will be there, 5 questions, total 25 marks, 5 questions I will be given, 25, and I will correct and give it to you. And tell your friends to come and attend these classes and to get to motivated and to be very successful in their learning process and to be a very successful man in life also. And important textual activities, question answers and activities I will be giving in the coming classes. And before concluding the class, I have given the last chapters. Okay, what is the last chapter we have studied? What is the last chapter we have studied?
Disaster management.
Disasters and disaster management in India. All complete notes will be released and aired very clearly, and that video will be out today by itself. Please, everybody, grab, tell your friends, and share this and make them to completely scientifically and very systematically take down the notes. Wish you all the best. Thank you very much.